objectives for AX1 have always been scientific research and outreach, performing meaningful science while still taking the time to communicate out the impact and application of that research.
This is really the opening of a new era where it's not just government astronauts like it's been for the last 60 years.
When you start to dig into it, microgravity is a very unique environment to conduct research and experiments.
Just the whole experience looking out of the cupola
is beautiful, amazing, emotional.
אנחנו עפים מעל כדור הארץ במהירות עצומה, וכל 45 דקות יש או זריחה או שקיעה. רואים כדור מדהים.
It's been an amazing experience. This will be something that we can share with humanity.
After 17 total days in space, 15 of them aboard the ISS, we are in the final phase of a journey that has covered more than 240 orbits and 6.3 million miles.
There's our first view of Dragon Endeavour re-entering the Earth's atmosphere with the Axiom 1 crew. We can confirm that the Dragon capsule has splashed down.
To the crew of AX1, well done.
Every time I think about the countdown, it starts at T-7 seconds. I don't know why. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1.
Okay, JK, everybody, this is a spaceship Freedom. Here we are above the Earth. Amazing ride uphill. We're very proud to be representing Axiom and our nations here. I couldn't be happier to be here and prouder of my guys that just did a great job all the way uphill.
On behalf of the Expedition 70 crew, I'd like to welcome Axiom 3 on board the International Space Station.
Welcome aboard Axiom 3 station. We are now resuming operational audio communications.
I am very proud of my AX3 crewmates who helped their agencies achieve all of their science objectives, technology demonstrations, as well as the outreach events.
So what I really hope this experience as a family will bring to them, it's the self-confidence that nothing is really impossible. I want to be an example, and I want to be part of those that make something impossible possible.
This is not a mission of a single individual. This is not magnifying a name. This is just the ignition moment. This is not the end. This is just the beginning.
Bună dimineața! Good morning! Ladies and gentlemen, doamnelor și domnilor, bine ați venit la cea de-a treia ediție a SpaceFEST, evenimentul nostru emblematic, unde încurajăm toți tinerii să creadă în visul lor, să spere, pentru că la un moment dat, de ce nu, pot ajunge în spațiu. Dați-mi voie să îl invit pe scenă pe rectorul Universității Națională de Știință și Tehnologie POLITEHNICA București, domnul Mihnea Costoiu.
Bună dimineața, doamnelor și domnișoarelor, doamnelor și domnilor, ambassadors, dear guests, domnule ministru. Thank you so much for coming in our fest. I speak in Romanian language and in English in this morning. Este un sentiment extrem de frumos de ceea ce vedem, ceea ce se întâmplă în universitate. Suntem extrem de bucuroși de faptul că suntem astăzi la a treia ediție a SpaceFEST. Ca să schimb un pic atmosfera așa, să relaxez aseară pe această scenă, era multă politică, cei doi candidați au fost aici dezbătând, astăzi sunt cu totul și cu totul alți oameni, vor fi oameni care vin din zona științei, oameni care ne aduc cu adevărat valoare, fără să vreau să spun că cei de ieri nu ne aduc valoare, să nu se înțeleagă asta. Este pentru noi o bucurie să reușim să organizăm de fiecare dată evenimente excepționale, cu oameni diferiți, cu viziuni diferite, cu oameni care au experiențe diferite, cu oameni care au reușit să facă diferența în această lume, oameni care reușesc să inspire generații, iar SpaceFEST este parte din acest fenomen extraordinar care se cheamă Polytechnica Festivals. Suntem în seria de 30 de evenimente organizate și în acest an, dar evident SpaceFEST este unul dintre evenimentele care atrage foarte mult public și unul dintre evenimentele care, repet, aduce alături de noi oameni excepționali din foarte multe locuri ale României și ale lumii. În primul rând, vorbim de cei care vă vor fi prezenți, vor fi prezentați în această zi, în aceste zile și vor fi alături de comunitatea universității și mai ales de oamenii din această țară. Avem în aceste zile foarte mulți oaspeți, le mulțumesc foarte mult că au venit alături de noi, tinerilor din țară, vor fi și astăzi, și mâine, și poimine, foarte mulți tineri veniți din țară, foarte mulți bucureșteni și suntem extrem de bucuroși că ceea ce noi promovăm, și anume valoarea, știința, ajunge cât mai departe la fiecare dintre, sau cât mai mulți dintre oamenii din această țară. Până la urmă, este cel mai important. Aș vrea să le mulțumesc foarte mult și colegilor din universitate, cei care au făcut posibil acest eveniment, nu doar facultăților implicate, și vreau să le mulțumesc foarte mult voluntarilor noștri, studenților, care de fiecare dată sunt, ca și în acest an, excepționali. Vă mulțumesc foarte mult! Este de asemenea o mare bucurie pentru mine să constat că și în acest an foarte mulți prieteni, foarte multe companii, foarte multe institute de cercetări, oameni din zonele de autoritate, partenerii noștri clasici, Ministerul Apărării, autoritățile din domeniu sunt extrem de apropiate, repet, și în acest an de acest eveniment. Și în acest an, spectacolele din universitate, generic vorbind, vor fi extrem de atrăgătoare și în acest an, ceea ce reușim să aducem în fața societății, în fața colegilor, în fața prietenilor, sunt momente excepționale. Mai mult decât atât, anul acesta am încercat ca această comunitate să fie mai largă, mai implicată, cu oameni diferiți, cu zone diferite, pentru că atunci când vorbim de spațiu și de implicarea în zona spațială, de tot ceea ce înseamnă un zbor spațial sau nu numai, vorbim de sateliți și așa mai departe. O industrie întreagă este implicată, nu doar oameni care construiesc, știu eu, un satelit sau lucrează pentru un astronaut sau îl pregătesc și așa mai departe, ci, repet, o serie întreagă de industrii și foarte multe dintre acestea, fără să dezvălui, sunt convins că Daniel Crunțeanu va face, decanul Facultății de scuzați-mă, Inginerie Aerospațială, vă va prezenta toate aceste lucruri în minutele care urmează. Repet, vreau să le mulțumesc tuturor pentru că este o desfășurare absolut excepțională. Fără să vreau să vorbesc mai mult la acest prim moment de deschidere, voi mai interveni pe parcursul acestui prime ore. Dați-mi voie încă o dată să vă mulțumesc tuturor pentru faptul că sunteți alături de noi și să vă rog să vă bucurați și să profitați de aceste zile și acești oameni excepționali. Încă o dată vă mulțumesc. Acum l-aș invita alături de mine pe colegul cu care în acești ani am onoarea de a conduce universitatea noastră, președintele Senatului Universității, domnul profesor Tudor Prisăcaru.
Your Excellencies, domnule președinte, domnilor invitați, stimați colegi, stăteam și mă întrebam zilele trecute de ce ar fi nevoie ca acest SpaceFEST să se organizeze chiar și pentru a treia oară în Politehnică. Și răspunsul pe care l-am găsit este legat de mai multe surse. Prima sursă este cea simbolistică. Simbolul Politehnicii îl reprezintă acea farfurie zburătoare concepută de arhitectul Doicescu și pentru că tot vorbim de vectori, domnul Doicescu era și cetățean de onoare al orașului New York din 1939, cu ocazia unei realizări deosebite în oraș. Primăria i-a acordat acest titlu și iată că astăzi vectorul acesta a dat din nou rezultate. Astronauții de la NASA sunt în mijlocul nostru. Unde puteau să vină decât acolo unde există un simbol atât de drag nouă celor din Politehnică, cupola rectoratului. Al doilea răspuns este că aici e vorba de năzuințele noastre, cum spunea colegul Gabi Petrea, dar la năzuințele astea putem contribui în multe mii de moduri. Pentru că ceea ce se întâmplă în spațiu, de fapt, este creat pe Pământ. Și creația, în general, nu reprezintă, să spunem, neapărat multe articole științifice, multe emisiuni, multe conferințe, reprezintă niște lucruri practice. Niște lucruri practice care ascund în spatele lor foarte multe științe fundamentale, fizică, matematică, chimie și așa mai departe, precum și foarte multă inginerie. Și ingineria se învață aici, în Politehnică. Paradoxal spun asta pentru că constat cu surprindere că mai sunt persoane destul de avizate de altfel care încă consideră că în Politehnică totuși se face doar o pregătire obișnuită. Nu, se face o pregătire pentru viață. Și aici trebuie toți să avem în vedere să ne reamintim din când în când, cu ocazia acestor evenimente, că ceea ce facem noi în Politehnică, chestiunile cu care ne pregătim, proiectele, de multe ori banale privite din exterior, contribuie la generarea acelui instrument care caracterizează inginerul, instrumentul creației. Și din acest punct de vedere trebuie să fiți conștienți de faptul că aproape tot ceea ce facem noi aici, odată și odată va putea contribui la instalațiile, facilitățile spațiale care pleacă în spațiul cosmic. Sigur, mergând și pe principiul enunțat de Napoleon cu 200 de ani, fiecare soldat poartă în raniță bastonul de mareșal. Deci, suntem foarte bucuroși că putem realiza acest eveniment, odată pentru ca să arătăm în plus contribuția noastră la dezvoltarea ingineriei, să reamintim studenților noștri valoarea pe care o capătă în această școală și instrumentul necesar pentru desfășurarea în bune condiții a vieții lor ulterior absolvirii. Pentru asta mulțumim invitațiilor noștri foarte mult, pentru că datorită dumnealor putem să focalizăm mai clar anumite obiective, putem să creăm în rândul studenților, să cristalizăm mai bine ceea ce ar vrea să facă fiecare, tot așa cum spunea și domnul rector, să putem în viitor să știm precis unde vrem să lucrăm, să activăm, pentru a fi cât mai motivați. Vă mulțumesc foarte mult și vă urez în continuare mult succes. Mulțumesc!
Tradiția Universității la SpaceFEST a fost de a aduce astronauți la fiecare eveniment, astronauți din mai multe țări. Anul acesta, tradițional, un ambasador NASA este alături de noi și în premieră un astronaut sud-corean. Este bucuria noastră de a fi alături astăzi aici, nu doar cu cei doi astronauți, ci și cu reprezentanții diplomatici ai celor două țări, cărora vreau să le mulțumesc foarte mult. Și dați-mi voie, înainte de a invita pe scenă, să spun câteva cuvinte. Ambasadorul Statelor Unite în România, doamna Kathleen Kavalek, este nu doar ambasador, dar îndrăznesc să spun de ceva vreme deopotrivă ambasadorul Universității în Statele Unite, într-o relație absolut excepțională, într-o construcție excepțională pe care am avut-o în acești ani. Cu foarte multe proiecte frumoase ale companiilor sau ale instituțiilor americane în România, cu foarte multe parteneriate extrem de solide și, evident, cu un suport extraordinar pe care doamna ambasador ni l-a acordat de fiecare dată. Vreau să-i mulțumesc încă o dată și de această dată pentru această colaborare excepțională și să o invit alături de mine. Ambasadorul Statelor Unite, doamna Kathleen Kavalek.
Rector Costoiu, President Prisecaro, Mr. Cruntiano, dear astronauts, ladies and gentlemen, doamnelor și domnilor, bună dimineața și bine ați venit la SpaceFEST 2025. It's an honor, este o onoare, to join you to celebrate the spirit of discovery, the boundless potential of space exploration, as well as the partnership between the United States and Romania in pushing the frontiers of science and technology. And I want to thank Rector Costoiu for recalling the many projects that we have going together with Romania and with this university. For 2 decades, our countries have shared a commitment to exploration, whether in space or beyond. We've collaborated in space research, aerospace engineering, and astronaut training. Romania is an important signatory of the groundbreaking US-led Artemis Accords, the broadest and most diverse international human space exploration program in history. This reflects America's commitment to leading the way and fueling the pursuit of space discovery and exploration. In joining Artemis, Romania demonstrated its commitment to enhance the governance of civil exploration and use of outer space, a fact highlighted by the administrator of NASA during his visit to Bucharest last year. Efforts such as these are bridges connecting our nations through a shared dream of reaching for the stars. Let me share another inspiring example of the nexus between the United States and Romania in space exploration, namely the Hubble Space Telescope. The Hubble has opened up the heavens, uncovering the mysteries of our universe, shattering the boundaries of scientific knowledge and advancement, and expanding humanity's understanding of the unknown in ways once believed to be impossible. While the marvels of this groundbreaking telescope are well known, what you may not know is that the Hubble is based on an idea by a Romanian physicist from Sibiu. Way back in 1923, Hermann Oberth first proposed propelling a telescope into Earth orbit by a rocket in order to avoid the atmospheric distortion that warps our view of the universe. His brilliant idea became the impetus for developing the Hubble many decades later. Today, SpaceFEST serves as a launch pad for brilliant ideas, a source of inspiration for students, educators, researchers, and industry leaders alike, a gathering that helps foster curiosity, innovation, and teamwork. These qualities are needed by engineers designing interplanetary missions, the astronauts charting new courses, and the scientists uncovering cosmic mysteries. This year, we're delighted to welcome two distinguished astronauts from NASA, Daniel Michio Tani, and from South Korea, Yi Seo-yeon. They will share with us the stories of their journeys beyond Earth, and I know we're all very excited to hear these. As you will hear, their stories are testaments to perseverance, courage, and discovery. Romanian experts and students from the Faculty of Aerospace Engineering will lead interactive workshops, bringing space exploration to life in ways that ignite minds and fuel ambition. I remember myself as a young as a child, the excitement of getting my first telescope and exploring the stars. So I know I can imagine the excitement of this event. I hope that SpaceFEST events and activities in these coming days will ignite the spark of curiosity in every young mind. I encourage you to take risks, dream big, and forge new paths into the unknown. Thank you for having me here today, and enjoy SpaceFEST 2025.
Vreau să-i mulțumesc încă o dată, doamnei ambasador. Thank you so much again, Ambassador. And I want to thank also the American teams, the Michael Dickens, the DCM and the Embassy. Thank you so much, Michael. And of course, our member of the team now, because it's with us for long term, Missam Ali. Thank you so much, Missam, for your beautiful work with my team. Thank you so much. Mulțumesc foarte mult. Fără echipe, liderii nu înseamnă nimic. Mulțumesc încă o dată. Așa cum vă spuneam, cel de-al doilea astronaut vine din Coreea de Sud. O veți vedea imediat. Iar nu puteam să nu invităm pe reprezentantul, pe ambasadorul Coreei de Sud în România, care de asemenea este un prieten al universității noastre. Acum foarte puțin timp, cred că o săptămână, 2 săptămâni, am semnat ultimul acord cu partenerii sudcoreeni din industria de apărare, o companie extrem de importantă și o universitate de asemenea extrem de importantă. Ieri am avut discuțiile concrete pentru noile noastre proiecte împreună cu partenerii sudcoreeni, pentru că relația dintre noi, dintre țările noastre și evident dintre universitățile noastre este una excepțională. Iar domnul ambasador este de asemenea un foarte important liant în această relație deja de lungă durată. Este o plăcere pentru mine să-l invit pe domnul ambasador al Coreei de Sud, Rim Chap-Soo. Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
The Honorable Rector, Minea Acostoiu, and astronauts, and the distinguished guest. Bună dimineața! Îmi face o deosebită plăcere și onoare să fiu astăzi alături de dumneavoastră la ceremonia de deschidere a SpaceFEST 2025, cel mai mare eveniment din Europa Centrală și de Est dedicat explorării spațiului. At the outset, I would like to welcome Madam Lee So-yeon, Korea's she is Korea's very first and only astronaut so far. She marked a very historic milestone in 2008, beating out over 36,000 candidates to join a mission to the International Space Station, marking the beginning of Korea's journey as a key space-faring nation. Dear guests, the international relations of the 21st century, it goes beyond traditional territorial concerns and increasingly resemble a form of tech politics. Securing competitiveness in space technology, semiconductors, electric batteries, and artificial intelligence has emerged as a new battlefield. It is no exaggeration to say that we live in an era where alliances and partners are no longer formed based on geographical location. Rather, they are formed among countries that possess the necessary technology, equipment, materials, and the patents to meet shared strategic goals. The Republic of Korea is no exception in this scramble to secure high-end and foundational technologies. Korea is the largest producer of the semiconductors and comes at number 2 in producing electric batteries. In the space activities, Korea is the 7th country in the world that manufactured space launch vehicle capable of placing satellites weighing over 1 ton into orbit. In 2022, Korea launched the Space Economy Roadmap and has been implementing National Space Development Plan. The roadmap aims to put us on a path towards leading the new era of the space economy. In addition, the basic plan, our government's base plan, highlights our efforts to promote the private sector's participation, expand space exploration, and foster the advancement of space science. To implement this initiative, the Korea Aerospace Administration was established last year, serving as the central agency coordinating space exploration, industry development, security, and international cooperation. On top of that, Korea has joined also as an associated member of the Horizon Europe, EU's largest multilateral research and innovation program. With a total funding of 100 billion euros until 2027, Horizon Europe supports key areas including advanced space technologies, satellite systems, and Earth observation. Korea's association to this program paved the way for the enhanced collaboration with our European partners, including Romania, on joint research and innovation projects. In this context, I would like to highlight the recent signing of the MOU between Korea's leading defense company, Hanwha Aerospace, and our two countries' leading institutions of higher learning, University POLITEHNICA, this university, and Busan National University. This MOU will serve as a powerful catalyst for academic and scientific exchange between Korea and Romania, laying a strong and enduring foundation for a collaboration in science, industry, and education. In closing, again, I would like to congratulate Universitatea POLITEHNICA for hosting this event, and we look very much forward to further strengthening our collaboration in the future. Vă mulțumesc!
Domnul ambasador, nu doar un prieten, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much again for this year, beautiful year together in Romania and for our common work and common project. Thank you again. Dragi colegi și prieteni, nu putem vorbi despre cercetare fără instituțiile coordonatoare ale cercetării. Și atunci când vorbim de universitate, evident, vorbim și mai ales de Politehnică, vorbim de universitate în care cercetarea este principala preocupare. Dați-mi voie să-l invit alături de noi pe președintele Autorității Naționale pentru Cercetare, domnul Andrei Alexandru.
Domnule rector, doamna ambasador, domnule secretar de stat, domnule director al Agenției Spațiale Române, dragi cercetători, profesori, dragi studenți, distinși oaspeți, cercetarea, inovarea și transferul de cunoaștere reprezintă principalele instrumente pentru dezvoltarea României, pentru asigurarea unei creșteri economice sustenabile, a prosperității, a siguranței și a bunăstării în general. Rolul nostru la Autoritatea Națională pentru Cercetare este dublu. Odată este vorba de reglementare, iar apoi de finanțarea programelor de cercetare, de inovare și de cunoaștere. Și dacă vorbim de reglementare, în ultimii ani, Autoritatea Națională pentru Cercetare, sub forma fostului Minister al Cercetării, Inovării și Digitalizării, a reușit să asaneze aproape în integralitate legislația aferentă cercetării, dezvoltării și inovării în acord cu bunele practici internaționale. Avem un nou statut al personalului de cercetare, dezvoltare și inovare. Avem o lege care încurajează parteneriatele, concentrările academice, fiindcă doar așa putem crește în rancurile internaționale și doar așa, punând la oaltă organizațiile publice și organizațiile private, putem să facem transferul din zona de cercetare către inovare, adică să transferăm rezultatele obținute în laborator pentru a aduce plus valoare pentru economie și pentru societatea românească. Dacă ne referim la finanțare, aici sigur avem mai multe paliere, finanțarea națională, unde spațiul este unul dintre domeniile prioritare. Am avut anul trecut lansată competiția de centre de excelență cu un buget de 320 de milioane de euro, pe domenii de cercetare asociate principalelor provocări societale. Una dintre liniile setate în agenda strategică de cercetare a României este digitalizare, industrie și spațiu. Deci acolo vom avea centre de excelență, fiecare cu un buget de 100 de milioane de lei, de 20 de milioane de euro. Pe lângă fondurile naționale, avem și fonduri europene. Și vreau să menționez un lucru. Calea pentru dezvoltarea României este strâns legată, direct legată de apartenența țării noastre la Uniunea Europeană. 30 de miliarde de euro am plătit, peste 100 de miliarde de euro am primit înapoi. Siguranța României este garantată de parteneriatul strategic cu Statele Unite și de apartenența la NATO. Nu se poate una fără cealaltă. Și dacă vorbim de fonduri europene, am avut în gestiune, la fostul Minister al Cercetării, îndeplinirea unei condiții favorizante, E vorba de condiția 1.1, buna guvernanță a strategiei de specializare inteligentă la nivel național și regional, și am adoptat o strategie nouă, un plan nou de cercetare, dezvoltare și inovare. Am rescris întreaga legislație împreună cu colegul meu și actualmente colegul meu în conducere, domnul secretar de stat Tudor Prisecaru, și împreună am reușit să îndeplinim această condiție favorizantă anul trecut și să deblocăm aproximativ 40 de miliarde de lei, 8 miliarde de euro din programele aferente politicii de coeziune. E vorba de programul de creștere inteligentă, digitalizare, instrumente financiare, de programul de sănătate și de programele regionale. Și e important de precizat că în decembrie și ianuarie am semnat contracte de aproximativ 500 de milioane de euro. Și în toate Universitatea Politehnica din București este partener. Deci vorbim de o universitate de elită, o universitate campioană la atragerea fondurilor europene. Doresc în particular să-i adresez cele mai sincere felicitări domnului rector Costoiu pentru maniera în care manageriază această universitate și pentru faptul că conduce o instituție de cercetare aflată în topurile internaționale. De asemenea, în particular doresc să-l felicit pe domnul Crunțeanu, directorul Agenției Spațiale Române, care a reușit într-un timp record să redreseze financiar instituția publică aflată în subordinea Autorității Naționale pentru Cercetare. Vă felicit încă o dată, vă mulțumesc tuturor că sunteți aici și vă doresc tuturor mult succes!
Mulțumim frumos, domnule secretar de stat, domnule președinte, pentru cuvintele frumoase. E o comunitate frumoasă care merită felicitările noastre, fără de care fiecare dintre noi, fiecare dintre colegi, contribuie câte un pic mai mult, un pic mai puțin, la acest succes. Aș vrea să le mulțumesc alături de, evident, colegii de la Facultatea de Inginerie Aerospațială și colegilor de la Facultatea de Inginerie Industrială și Robotică, colegilor de la Facultatea de Mecanică și Mecatronică, colegilor de la Facultatea de Chimie, de la Facultatea de Științe Biotehnice, de la Știința și Ingineria Materialelor și de la Transporturi, cei care sunt implicați din plin în acest eveniment, repet, alături de vinovatul principal, Facultatea de Inginerie Aerospațială. Veți vedea în aceste zile lucruri frumoase și pentru toate acestea, încă o dată mulțumindu-i foarte mult pentru ceea ce se întâmplă astăzi, îl invit alături de mine pe Daniel Crunțeanu, decanul Facultății de Inginerie Aerospațială și în același timp președintele Agenției Spațiale Române. Daniel, te rog.
Bună ziua! O sală superbă. Bună ziua și bine ați venit la noi, doamnă ambasador, domnule ambasador, stimați invitați care ne onorați cu prezența voastră aici, dragi studenți, dragi profesori, dragi cercetători, domnule președinte al Autorității Naționale pentru Cercetare, domnule secretar de stat Prisecaru, mulțumim pentru cuvintele foarte frumoase, care ne pun într-o poziție evident destul de delicată, pentru că acum trebuie să ne ridicăm la înălțimea așteptărilor acestui moment. Vorbim astăzi despre a treia ediție a SpaceFEST, un eveniment organizat împreună cu Agenția Spațială Română, cu Agenția Spațială Europeană, într-un moment extrem de important pentru Agenția Spațială Europeană. Pe 31 mai se vor împlini 50 de ani de la înființarea Agenției Spațiale Europene. În marja acestui eveniment, de-a lungul Europei se întâmplă evenimente ca acesta. Al nostru sperăm că este unul dintre cele mai importante din această zonă a Europei. Alături de noi au fost, ca de fiecare dată de la prima ediție, Ambasada Statelor Unite, pentru care ținem încă o dată să le mulțumim pentru sprijinul lor, atât domnișoare Misa Mali, cât și domnului DCM Michael Dickerson, pentru tot sprijinul pe care l-au acordat în această perioadă. Și dacă suntem la etapa de mulțumiri pentru fiecare dintre cei care au contribuit la acest frumos eveniment, evident că va trebui să mulțumim facultăților care ne-au sprijinit și ele, celor care ne sunt parteneri în organizarea evenimentelor, și, de ce nu, tuturor voluntarilor și echipe administrative a universității. După asemenea discursuri, mie mi-a rămas doar să prezint care vor fi atracțiile principale ale evenimentului, după care vom trece la partea cea mai interesantă a acestei zile sau mai interesantă a acestei zile, în care vom avea alături astronauții. Având în vedere că este un eveniment de aeronautică și spațiu, SpaceFEST anul acesta aduce în fața vouă tuturor câteva lucruri extrem de interesante, spunem noi. Prietenii și partenerii noștri de la Aeroclubul României au venit și de această dată ne-au pus la dispoziție planoare, aeronave și, de ce nu, astăzi, după ce vom termina acest prim eveniment, primă manifestare a evenimentului nostru, pe peluza din față vom putea să asistăm la câteva survoluri din partea Aeroclubului României cu echipa de acrobație. Ei, de asemenea, ne vor pune la dispoziție și premii pentru tinerii care vor câștiga concursurile noastre, vor avea zboruri gratuite la Aeroclubul României cu avioane ultraușoare. Mergem mai departe la Inspectoratul General de Aviație, cărora le mulțumim și lor pentru ajutorul pe care l-au acordat. Ei vor veni în fiecare zi cu un elicopter Black Hawk. Pentru informarea publicului larg, la ora 9:30 va ateriza în fiecare zi pe stadionul de sport din cinta universității și va decola la ora 4 ca să putem să și vedem aceste momente impresionante. De asemenea, pe parcursul zilei vor fi deschise publicului pentru a fi vizitate. Mergem la statul major al forțelor aeriene, cărora le mulțumim și lor pentru că ne vor sprijini cu echipamentele din dotare. Sâmbătă, în jurul orei 13:30, vom avea parte de un survol a 2 elicoptere Iare 330 Puma, iar duminică îl vom avea și pe acest elicopter pe terenul de sport în static display, pentru a fi vizitat. Mergem mai departe și vorbim despre toate institutele de cercetare care au venit la acest eveniment și care sunt prezente pe holurile evenimentului și care aduc din zona aeronautică numeroase tipuri de aplicații cu drone, cu echipamente legate de spațiu și, evident, nelipsitele virtual reality și augmented reality. Trecem la zona de spațiu efectiv, unde Agenția Spațială Română împreună cu Agenția Spațială Europeană organizează pentru al 2-lea an în București concursul CANSET. Alături de noi anul acesta sunt în sală 7 echipe de tineri care vor lansa astăzi, după amiază, la Clinceni, cu ajutorul colegilor de la Aeroclubul României, vor lansa CANSET-urile la care lucrează de câteva zile. Pentru acest lucru vă propun să-i aplaudăm, să le urăm succes. Anul trecut nu au reușit să fie la deschidere, am primit observația lor și am făcut astfel încât astăzi să poată să fie și la deschidere și să lanseze mai târziu. Referitor la industria spațială din România, o industrie care este în ascendență continuă, vorbim despre 300 de entități care sunt înscrise în sistemul ESA, vorbim de peste 2500 de angajați care lucrează în companii pentru proiecte pe zona spațială. Avem astăzi și zilele următoare, de astăzi până duminică, pe holurile universității cele mai importante companii cu proiecte deosebite dezvoltate cu ESA și, de ce nu, multe dintre dezvoltările și inovațiile tehnologice pe care le-au produs în proiectele cu ESA sunt prezentate în cadrul acestui eveniment, în cadrul universității noastre. Vorbim aici de soluții spațiale folosite pentru situații de urgență. Vorbim de navigație, vorbim de navigație spațială, vorbim despre tehnologie legată de lansatoare, că tot vedem în fiecare lună la televizor câte o lansare și putem spune cu încredere astăzi că și în România se produc astfel de tehnologii. Veți vedea zilele acestea niște piese care rar crezi că se produc în România sau rare ori găsești oameni care cred că sunt produse în România. Vorbim de piese pentru lansatoare, vorbim de turbopompe, vorbim de ajutajul de reacție de la lansatorul Vega, care se află exact la intrarea în partea de expoziție. În afară de acesta, pentru tineri, avem foarte multe ateliere, pentru toate vârstele, există planetariu, există parte de meteoriți, de observații solare, făcute de institutele astronomice, dar și de colegii noștri de la MAPN. Sper că nu am uitat nimic interesant în acest moment, dar pe restul vă las să le mai descoperiți și singuri. Ca să nu se supere pe mine studenții noștri, o să vă spun că în fiecare zi, de la 13:30 și de la 15:30, vom avea demonstrații pe peluza din spatele rectoratului cu aeromodele de concurs din partea studenților și angajaților de la Facultatea de Inginerie Aerospațială. Aici mă opresc și acum trecem la următorul punct, la care invit mai întâi alături de mine o prietenă a acestui eveniment și a universității noastre. Ne face onoare și plăcere în același timp să o avem alături de noi pe doamna Cristina Corb, pe care o invit alături de mine. Ea este un expert în astronauți și cea care ne-a ajutat de fiecare dată să avem alături de noi alți astronauți care să ne spună experiențele lor extraordinare. Cristina?
I don't know if I said that right. Yes. Good morning. Esteemed guests, ambassadors, astronauts, I'm very happy to be back in Romania. And to the young people, ce faci? So, some of you may remember 2 years ago, I came to Romania and I brought astronauts with me. NASA astronaut Nicole Stott, an Egyptian astronaut, Sarah Sabri. Now, I have been privileged to take astronauts all over the world. And why? Because I used to manage Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin. Now, if you don't know who Buzz Aldrin is, your young people may know Buzz Lightyear. Do you know who Buzz Lightyear is? So this is modeled after Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, who was with Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. So I have been privileged to bring astronauts to many countries on Earth. And so I am known for this around the world now. But the thing I'm very proud of here in Romania is that 2 years ago, I helped launch SpaceFEST. And that is because I know that Romania has very bright minds. I know that Romania is a leader in software development, in AI, data, cybersecurity. You have the most advanced TSA at the airport I have ever seen in Cluj. And so I know that there is a lot of interest in space here in Romania. And so I'm proud and happy to see all you young people, because I know that you have an interest in space. How many of you think that you use space technology every day? How many? Raise your hand if you think you use space technology. So the young people know. All of you use space technology, all of you, every day. You just may not realize that's what it is. If you're using a cell phone, you're using satellites in orbit. You're using GPS to get around to the places you go. So I want you to think about that, because you can be a part of expanding space access in Romania. You could go to space. I believe in you. So thank you very much. I'm very excited to be welcoming the astronauts here today, because I'm also very aware that when people get to meet an astronaut, it sets their dreams on fire. It makes them believe in impossible things. So I'm excited for you to hear from the astronauts and for us to introduce the astronauts. So Daniel?
Thank you first. Please stay by me. O să păstrăm limba română până când o să intrăm în panel, după care o să trecem doar la limba engleză. Este o onoare, o plăcere și un privilegiu să avem astăzi alături de noi pe astronauta coreeană Soo-yeon-lee. Vă rog să fiți alături de noi. And please tell us a few words in the beginning. First, maybe we have the video.
Bună ziua, Romania. That's all I have in Romanian language. Hello, everyone. So nice to meet you. First of all, I'm so thrilled to be here because it's my first time in Romania. So I'm so looking forward to enjoy the SpaceFEST, all the Romanian students and peoples here. And thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm also from this kind of technical engineering school, and then that was part of my life before becoming an astronaut. And as our ambassador already introduced, I was one of 36,000 applicants to be an astronaut. And I never even cannot imagine or even cannot dream to be the final astronaut candidate during those whole process, because that started from curiosity. Not like other NASA astronauts, as a Korean students who grow up in Korea in 1990, 1970, and 1980, we cannot dream about to be an astronaut because at that time, we didn't have a space agency, we didn't have a rocket at all. But I was so curious when the Korean government announced about the astronaut selection. Curious for what? Curious about what kind of people will be an astronaut. We've never had that before. But all my friends said that if you apply for that, you will know better than reading the articles or watching the YouTube. That's always kind of indirect. So I just want to dive in there and then check it out. Frankly speaking, during the whole process, I have my number 1 and number 2 and number 3. I believe they will be the first Korean astronaut. So every day I take a selfie with them because I want to tell that I'm a friend of the first Korean astronaut in the future. But nowadays, they told their kids, I'm the friend of the astronaut, Korean astronaut. So look around you. You don't know who will be what. Because when I became the first Korean astronaut, I grew up in a small little rural town in southwest of the Korea. Nobody believes that the little girl who grew in that village will be the first Korean astronaut. So friends of my mom told my mom, the first Korean astronaut look quite similar to your daughter. And then my mom just smiled and then cannot say anything because nobody believes that. So I really want to tell you, you don't know who you will be. And then you don't know your friends will be. So be nice to your friend. So many Korean friends of mine who bullied me during the middle school and high school, I definitely know they regret. And please, dream high, aim high. You will be something you never imagined. And I'm so honored and happy to be with you right now to start your dream. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sion. And now, last but not the least, our friend from NASA, Mr. Dan Tenney. Please come with us.
Thank you so much. It is so wonderful to finally be here after looking forward to this for months and months. Like Soyun, this is my very first time to visit Romania. I've flown over Romania a couple thousand times, but this is the first time I get to set foot in this beautiful country, and I've been looking forward to it. I'm thrilled to see an auditorium full of mainly students and people that are interested in dreaming about space, thinking about their future. Maybe it involves space. And so I'm really looking forward to these next couple days. Like Soyun, I spent my university days in an institute just like this, a technical university. But if you're with us for the next couple days, and as you hear my stories, what you'll hear me say is, if you want to be in space, if you want to be involved in this incredible journey of exploring not only our Earth, but other celestial orbs like the moon, Mars, whatever, you don't have to be really good at science or engineering, because since we want to live off of this planet, we're going to need expertise in all aspects of life. And so maybe you don't think you're going to be interested in science or engineering. Maybe you want to do fashion design. Well, we need people to figure out what we're going to wear if we're going to explore Mars. Maybe you really enjoy cooking or food. We need to figure out what we're going to eat, how we're going to get our nutrition. Maybe you're interested in languages. Well, we're going to send people from all over the world to Mars or wherever, and we're going to have to figure out language. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to communicate with each other. And so part of my message this weekend is, sure, we want great scientists, engineers, mathematicians, computer specialists, but maybe that's not your thing. We're going to need whatever you're really good at. Maybe it's law, maybe it's teaching, maybe it's art, okay? We're going to need all those expertise. So we want you. We want those specialists. We want those people that are really good at absolutely everything, because space is going to be about everything. And we want to do the best we can and be successful and do wonderful things in space. So thank you so much. I look forward to meeting as many of you as I possibly can. Thank you for coming.
Urmează ceea ce este partea cea mai interesantă și înainte de a lansa partea cea mai interesantă. Ți-ai uitat hârtiile, Dani? Nu? Asta e aici. Bătrânețea, ce să faci?
La o vârstă.
Partea cea mai interesantă, și anume răspunsurile acestor oameni excepționali în fața dumneavoastră, experiențele lor. Dar până atunci aveam de gând să fac acest lucru la finalul acestui eveniment, la finalul SpaceFEST, însă mesajele celor doi astronauți, să vă rog să aduceți și căștile, cele două. Scuzați-ne. Și anume m-au inspirat extraordinar de mult mesajele celor doi astronauți, vorbind în fața noastră, în fața voastră, despre visurile lor și despre felul în care fiecare dintre tineri își pot visa la acest vis frumos, și anume de a fi în spațiu, de a vedea lumea de sus. Și am tot discutat cu ai noștri colegi despre totuși misiunile spațiale europene și despre ceea ce România trebuie să facă. Și profit de ocazie și de mesajele lor ca să lansez astăzi aici, în fața tuturor autorităților românești, programul Următorul Astronaut Român. Suntem în acești ani, vorbim de foarte mulți ani de un singur astronaut, domnul Dumitru Prunariu, un distins astronaut, un om excepțional, dar credem că e momentul ca România să-și propună, și inițiativa pleacă de la Politehnică, un nou astronaut român. E această idee la care vom ține constant de aici încolo, credem că ar trebui îmbrățișată, indiferent de culoarea guvernului care va veni, a președintelui care va veni, pentru că România are forța și talentele care să poată să facă acest pas. Și vă rog ca în aceste zile să vă alăturați acestui demers al nostru, ca această inițiativă să plece de aici, de la SpaceFEST. Vă rog, profitați cu cuvintele noastre frumoase de prezența acestor oameni excepționali. Vă mulțumesc încă o dată.
Okay, I will let my colleagues to present the QR code for the questions for our guests. And then each of you will send your question. We will address it to our invitees, and then one of you, our friends, you could answer, or both of you could say something about that question. The QR code is on the screen now. Till then, let's start with a warming question. After, yes, I know Dan is a very good photographer, we've seen it. So the first question should be, how did you know you wanted to become an astronaut? Was it a childhood dream or not?
Okay, I'll start. I never thought about being an astronaut when I was a child. Never thought of it. When I was growing up, we were landing on the moon, and it was exciting, and we all played astronaut. We all pretended to be astronauts, but I never thought I would ever be an astronaut. And I went to college and got my first jobs, and really the first time I really thought about being an astronaut is when I got to work with an astronaut. I worked in the space industry, and one of the programs I worked on, the astronauts came out to my company, and wow, that was a big deal. But until then, honestly, I didn't even think of being an astronaut as a job. I had no idea how you became an astronaut. And when I got to talk to them and got to know them, it became sort of real. I knew somebody who was an astronaut. And so that sparked a little bit of interest, but I was 25 years old. And then eventually, as my career progressed, I heard they were taking applications to the astronaut program, and I just sent my application in, and I just got really lucky. So really, I know that there are people that when they were 6 years old wanted to become an astronaut, and they became an astronaut. I think that's an unbelievable story, but that was not my story. I think I had the right skills, and I was at the right place at the right time, and I got very fortunate.
Thank you.
Whenever I met my NASA astronaut friends, they always started talking about the Apollos and kind of thing, and they dreamed to be an astronaut when they were kids, watching the TV Apollo programs. But then you are kind of rare case. And so whenever I heard that kind of experience, I feel a little bit jealousy, because I grew up in Korea in 1980, 1990. We even didn't have a space agency. And we couldn't have any luxury to send a satellite or building the rocket, because at the time we were so kind of hard to feed ourselves and then grow ourselves, because right after Korean War, our economics and then welfare was so bad. But thankfully and gratefully, I was born around the 1970 and 80, and economic booms happened in Korea. So I could get a lot of scholarship opportunity. Only because I love math and science, I went to the engineering school. But I've never dreamed about space things at all. And frankly speaking, it's a little bit embarrassed, but until I applied for an astronaut selection, I had no idea about Neil Armstrong or Yuri Gagarin at all. Even if some of my nerd, geeky engineer friends all knows about space and they love Star Wars and Star Trek, but I was not a fan of even Star Wars. But when I read about the newspaper articles, finally, Korean government tried to make one astronaut to fly to the ISS with the Russian collaboration. And I just wonder what kind of people who will be the astronaut. And second of all, oh my God, it would be really, really cool to do the scientific experiment in space, not in boring my kind of stupid lab. That was my job. So I just tried, because I believe I will not be the final astronaut. But I really want to try out. I really want to make the memory of my almost end of my academic life, because it was almost end of my PhD program. So once I got a job, or once I became busy with the family, maybe it would be the luxury to apply for an astronaut. So during the PhD program might be the perfect time to experience. So I didn't expect that. But you know what? We all try to survive whatever things happen. So one of my friends complained about me, Soyeon, we promised that we just survive. We never be the number one, we never be the top tier, because we are all kind of average students in our school. We have a bunch of the genius, crazy, kind of smart friends of mine, because there was the really, really good school, but I was always around the average, barely make it, barely not failed my class, barely make my scholarship. But I told my friend, I didn't betray you guys, because every single step from the 36,000 to the 5,000, I just survived. And from the 5,000 to the 300, I just survived. And 300 to the 30, I just tried to survive barely. Maybe I was the 29th. And then survive up to the 10, and then finally it's 2, I barely survived. I might be the number 2. And I became a backup, so I proved it, I was number 2. But right before 1 month before launch, and Korean government and Russian government decided to change me to the primary, it was also I survived between 2 be the 1. So if you do your things every day, very hard, at your best, then you can reach the somewhere you really want to go. So my astronaut dream was also started quite late, not from the childhood.
Okay, thank you very much. Christina, a question from you.
Okay, so I work with many astronauts, and this was not the plan for my life either. I was a singer for a long time. My dream was to be a rock star. And I was a singer starting at the age of 12 years old, and then when I was 22, I went to Los Angeles to try to become a rock star. And I did have some success. I got signed to Warner Brothers. I sang with big stars like Ringo Starr from the Beatles. I sang on 2 of his records. And then I was a background singer singing for big Latin artists. So my first time in Romania was singing for 20,000 Romanians. And I never thought I would be working with astronauts, ever. And then 17 years ago, I was running a record label and a production company, a media company in Los Angeles. And then I wanted a change. I just wanted a change for a little while. And I answered an ad in a magazine for Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. Now, I thought this was going to be a nice, boring job for a little while. I did not know what I was getting myself into. And before I knew it, I was with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and all the Apollo astronauts. Now, what I have to tell you, of course, is it changed my life. And now I work in deep space. I have a foundation called Space for a Better World, where my mission is to connect the space curious to the space serious. Because I work in the deep space serious now for 17 years. But my passion is to inspire young people like you, because I never thought, just like you, I grew up in a small town in South Dakota in America, and no one ever spoke to me about space. But I had big dreams, and I could see the moon and stars where I lived. And I also know a lot of astronauts who grew up in small towns or in places where people never thought it was possible to be an astronaut. And so I want you young people to think about this, because a lot of the astronauts who became astronauts never thought that it would be possible for them. But then they decided to try. They decided to apply for things. So this is what I tell you, no matter what your grades are, always go for anything that you're passionate about, because you never know. When I worked for Buzz Aldrin, people would always say to me, "How did you get this job?" And I would say, "I applied."
and I had the right skills. The job to manage Buzz Aldrin and his company was my media skills. I knew how to produce, I knew how to do sound editing, I knew how to handle a stage production, I knew how to handle interviews for the press, and that is exactly what they needed for Buzz Aldrin, not an engineer or a scientist. And so I tell you young people this because I'm glad, Dan, you said, we need all of your skills and talents. We need all of your creativity. We need you to dream up ways of doing things we've never done before. And so you may not have thought space was possible for you or to be an astronaut, but we're here to tell you it is possible for you. So keep dreaming, keep aiming higher, and even me, I never thought I'd work with astronauts ever, and now I know many astronauts, and I'm very excited to be on a permanent spacewalk in space.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Now, the next question from our students for our guests. What is the selection process like at NASA or other space agencies?
Sure, I'll speak for NASA.
Oh, it's not a...
Check.
Here, you want one of ours?
Check. Okay, great. Well, I'll speak for NASA. So NASA in America is a civilian organization, and so it's not associated with the military. And NASA picks astronauts about every 2 years, and so they just set out, in my era, they would send out pieces of paper that say, hey, we're taking astronauts. Now they put it online. And the process is, I'm going to say simple. You fill out a job application, and it's 10 pages or so, like most other job applications. And then you get in a pile with thousands and thousands of other people that want to be astronauts. And then NASA in Houston, the Johnson Space Center, they have a committee with lots of astronauts on it, and they read every single application. And of the thousands of applications, they'll pull out about 300 or so for further consideration. And out of those 300, they'll pick about 100 to interview. So 100 people, about 20 at a time, go to Houston, and they go through, it's become 2 weeks of interviews. You go to Houston, and there are primarily medical evaluations, but also you meet with the committee and you go through a job interview. And then they take a smaller section of those, maybe 40 or so, and bring them back for another week of interviews. So the process, from your point of view, is pretty simple. You fill out the job application, and if you get a phone call, then you go down to Houston, and you go through these medical evaluations and an interview process. And so it's not a lot different than many other jobs, but the benefit is if you get selected, you get to go to space.
Korean astronaut selection process is a little bit different because NASA astronaut selection or ESA astronaut selection, they do that regularly every 2 years or every some years. And they had a very stabilized process after several selection. But when I had an astronaut selection process, it was not the regular astronaut selection, more like a science festival and science TV show like thing, because they want to pick the one space ambassador of the Korea. And the very first Korean astronaut should have a good communication skill to the general public because it's the very first. And also, it is a part of the general public's science and space inspiration and kind of like a campaign. So not only they testing some kind of scientific or engineering skill set or health kind of thing, but also they try to give the message to the general public about what's the astronaut, what's the space, even in the middle of the selection process. So I still remember they started from the application exactly like the NASA astronaut selection, but we didn't have any prerequisite because we opened to any Koreans who is older than 19 years old who believes they are healthy enough. So a little bit different from the other country. And from the 36,000 people, they filtered to the 5,000 because most of the people just apply with the lack of the documentation or they miss some kind of essay because they just try and then pick it out the 5,000. And then we had a general health check and a medical check, like an annual medical check, and filtered it out. Some of the people has a serious illness or something kind of like that. And then I still remember the one of the lady who doesn't know she's the pregnant, but that one day test, she realized that having a baby, and she withdrew. But it's kind of mixed feeling because it's good to have a baby, but sad to withdraw the program. It's not the discrimination. It's kind of like she needed to take her own health, not stressful, because we have a really serious medical test like MRI and CT and kind of like that. It's not good for the pregnant woman. So she, with her own willing, because government asked her if she proceed or not, and then kind of things happen, because it is a very interesting campaign process. And became 300, and we take the even written exam about the Korean history. And I was wondering, why Korean history? Because I'm so weak in that. I always have a top tier of the math and science and kind of like that, but I even cannot be the average of the philosophy or Korean history and then world history, kind of like that. But I realized that because first Korean astronaut should be the ambassador of the Korea, honorary ambassador, we should know about the histories and politics and science and social everything. So all my friends said that you will be failed if they test the Korean history, but thank God I survived. And then became 30, and we have a camp training for whole 3 days, train together, and they just keep us sleeping. So for whole 2 days, we cannot sleep at all, make the really, really stressful situation, and then check it out how we react. Because no matter how nice people or smart people, once they feel so stressful, sometimes they just flip out as a crazy person. So they treat it out. And then became 10, and they filtered into the 8, and then we went to the Russia, and then we have some selection process with the Russian instructor because we will have a training in Russia. At the time, I was so excited because I was a poor graduate student, but I can go to the Russia for free. So I couldn't even think about any selection thing. I just enjoyed go to the Russian cosmonaut training center, do the skin scubas and meeting the real astronaut over there, and became 6. And final 2 in the 2006 Christmas Day. It's the biggest TV show ever because they picked the final 2 out of the 36,000 people. Yeah, it was a TV show. So from the 5,000 until the 2, they televised every weekend. It's like a survival audition thing because it's a science campaign in Korea. So it is a little bit different from the NASA astronaut selection. At the time, that was my first time be on the TV. My mom was so excited to take the photo of the TV. So yeah, maybe many of the small country, like Romania or other European country who doesn't have a regular astronaut, your future astronaut selection pretty much similar to the my selection rather than the NASA or ESA selection. And who knows, you will be. So whenever Romanian government open for the application, please apply for that. And then you can be the colleague of the Dimitri Dorian. He will have a 44th anniversary next week. He want me to talk about in Romania. So hopefully you can celebrate with him together, and then you will dream to be the next cosmonaut and astronaut in Romania.
Thank you very much. Now the next question, we have it on the screen. How do you think space travel will improve in the next few years?
Do you want me to take that? Can I go? Sure. I'm in a very privileged position working with many astronauts. And because of the years that I worked with Buzz Aldrin, I got to meet many heads of space agencies, many aerospace executives at the top of the big companies all the way to the small companies. And it's been interesting to see the evolution from 17 years ago to now. So there are a lot of exciting things going on in space. I'm sure a lot of you know about SpaceX. Do you know about SpaceX? I see a lot of young people nodding their heads. I have a 10-year-old son, and he knows who Elon Musk is, so I'm sure you all know who Elon is. SpaceX, you know, is the leader of rocket launches in the world. And the exciting thing about SpaceX, I live in Florida. And in Florida, that's where most of the rocket launches happen. So when I moved to Florida 10 years ago, there was maybe 9 launches per year, maybe 1 every month, every 6 weeks. Now, in Florida, there are 2 rocket launches per week. Per week. Sometimes there are 2 rocket launches on one day. So we're talking 100 and something rocket launches in America with SpaceX alone every year now. So this means the opportunities for many countries to be able to send satellites, to be able to send scientific experiments, happens all the time, twice a week. And this also increases the possibility of more people going to space for many countries. And there are different commercial companies sending people to space. Axiom Space, they're taking their 4th mission, 4th crew next month sometime in the next 2 months. I know the Polish astronaut Slavoj who's going. And there's a company called VAST that is now trying to take people to space. So the acceleration, things are happening very fast in space. And that's why it's good for you young people to see the opportunities to work in space, because with AI is making things happen really fast in space. So I think it's going to move so quickly now, and you young people can be a part of that quickness. And I will let you two weigh in on it because you have a different perspective as astronauts, but I have witnessed in 17 years going from rocket launches every now and then to rocket launches all the time, every couple days. I hear the rocket launches at my house, like twice a week. So anyway, go on to you.
I think one of the, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Okay. I think one of the exciting things that's happening in space travel now is that you no longer have to be a professional astronaut to go to space. And so there are opportunities if you want to buy a seat to go to space, but also we're getting to the point where we're going to have companies that need to put their employees up in space because we're going to be doing research or manufacturing. And so I think there are going to be many, many opportunities to go into space even if you're not a professional astronaut. I think there still will be professional astronauts representing countries, but I also think there will be astronauts or people going to space representing companies or schools or some other organization because they have a need to go into space. So that, I find that very, very exciting.
Yeah, and then also thinking about the country like Romania and Korea, I think in the future we have more opportunity than before because human space flight very, very dominated by the big, huge country like Russia and China and US because it's under the government program. But nowadays it became more commercial. Space programs happen and a commercial company happens. As you know, if government sometimes have a problem with the diplomatic problems, is have a limitation to invite the foreign peoples to work together. But commercial space, as far as they need some characteristic of the people, they don't care about what kind of citizen they have, what kind of country they are living with. So they expand more horizon to the diverse, and not only kind of races or countries, but also gender. So I think future space travel will be more diverse than before. We have more diverse peoples and more diverse ages and kind of generation and a more diverse skill set as Dan already talked about. So I'm so looking forward.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll have time, I think, for 3 questions. So what sacrifices does an astronaut have to make in order to achieve their dream?
All right, I'll start. First of all, being an astronaut, honestly, it's the best job in the world. So the sacrifices that we make are, in the big picture, I think, certainly worth it, or at least we all believe that it's worth it. I would say that 2 things come to mind. One, the biggest one is, at least in my career, to train to go in space, I spent a lot of time away from home. So I trained to go to the space station for 5 years. I would say at least a year and a half of that was away from home. And so that's very difficult on your family. And so I was married, I had small children. It's very, very difficult. In fact, when I finally launched to space, my wife was relieved because even though I was going to be gone for months, at least that was the last time. And it wasn't, he's gone, he's back, he's gone. So I would say that that's the hardest sacrifice, missing, watching my children grow up and all that difficult, personally difficult. The other interesting one that I hadn't thought of is as an astronaut, you're very specific, it's a very specific job. And I was an astronaut for 16 years, and while I was doing that, I was training to go to space, and I was doing everything they told me to do. But everybody else that I worked with before I became an astronaut in my company had learned how to be managers and be business people. And so when I left the astronaut office, I didn't have any of those skills that my colleagues back in industry had. So it was interesting. I, of course, loved flying in space, and I thought it was a great job. But it kind of held me back a little bit going back into the business world because there was 16 years of experience that I didn't have that my colleagues did. But again, all things considered, it's a fantastic job, and I loved having it.
So my case is a little bit different because I became the first of the Korean astronaut. It's a little bit different that be the astronaut of the 100 of the astronaut in US, I guess. So, but it's very, if I look back that time, I didn't expect any sacrifice when I applied for an astronaut. And then when I became the final 2 candidate, and then when I went to the Russia for the training, even when I was up to the ISS, I couldn't think about should I sacrifice anything because it was so exciting and it was so cool. But after coming back, even if I'm same as a Suyan, but whole world treat me a little bit different because 10 days ago, I was just one of the graduate school students. Nobody knows me. And then so many people even ignore me. But after coming back from the ISS, every single Korean citizen recognized me. And even by the survey, I realized that 99% of the Korean citizens at the time, 2008, know my name and recognize face. And it was a successful science campaign as the government. But my life is totally upside down. Of course, first several weeks was exciting, but after that I realized, oh my God, I don't have any personal life at all. Wherever I go, everybody come to me and intrude my personal life, and nobody respect my personal zone at all. And second of all, some of the newspaper articles are totally fake, but people criticize me. And all my cousins and family is a very Korean culture. They were so sure that I will never ever marry at all because I was so well-known, most aggressive Korean woman in that country. So my cousin called me and said, Soyeon, you should give up marriage because no one want to date with you because you are way too aggressive Korean woman. Not that many Korean guys want to date or marry with you. That was kind of like a sacrifice also. And then even my mom told me, Soyeon, you know what? I'm so proud of you as a daughter. But I don't want my son bring the daughter-in-law like you. What? And my mom said that, you are so busy. You never ever get back to the Thanksgiving for the holiday because you're always out of the country. And you never cook at home because you are so busy. And you're always up all night for some kind of work. I hope my daughter-in-law take care of my son better than you. Wow. But as a daughter, you are the best. And in my church community, before being an astronaut, every single old ladies tried to introduce their son to me, but right after being an astronaut, they never talk about their son at all. And whenever election period happened, and so many politicians tried to call me and take a photo with me, even if I'm not interested in politics at all. And I had no idea about the government work because I was a stupid graduate student before being an astronaut, but suddenly all the government work comes to me. And then at the time I realized that, oh my God, there's nothing for free in the world, whatever you want to have. So thinking about it, if you get something for free, no matter how good it is, you cannot feel it's valuable because it's free. But it's so precious and unique and it's something really special. If you get it, luckily for free, you should pay for it even after. So I realized that I pay my sacrifice after being an astronaut, not before being an astronaut. But now, so some of my friends said that, oh, Soyeon, your life is so hard. And then sometimes you feel so depressed. Sometimes you feel so kind of anxious. Do you regret to be an astronaut? But I said no, because it's very special. And then even if millions and millions of Korean citizens speak ill of me at some point because of some fake news article, it's okay, because I'm the first Korean astronaut. It's a history. No matter how bad things happen, I'm the first. And so far, I'm the only who've been in space. It's a great privilege. So I think it's fair, because if you really want to have some special thing, you should pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, what was the hardest part about being in space?
This is a difficult question because it's so enjoyable to be in space. I remember the hardest thing I had to do in space. So, at the International Space Station, half of the vehicle is made by the Russian space program, and half of the vehicle is made by the American and European and partner program, space programs. And so all of the astronauts that go to the space station have to learn both English and Russian. And learning Russian was the hardest thing for me. I was never very good at Russian, but they expect crews to be able to speak both. And so there are several times when I had to do work in the Russian part of the space station, change filters or do something. And so that was easy. The hard part was getting on the radio and calling down and saying, basically, I'm done with the procedure, what do you want me to do next? But I had to speak it in Russian. And that was terrifying to me. I went on spacewalks and did other things that were very seemingly dangerous, but the most scared I was ever was when I pressed the button on the microphone and had to say, yeah, complete, yeah, whatever. I'm complete with the procedure, step 17.3, and that was a nerve-wracking experience for me. But being in space, if you work in a laboratory here on Earth, it's just like that. You have procedures, you have instructions, you have your colleagues, it's fun, of course, looking out the window is beautiful. So I have a very difficult time thinking about the hard times about being in space, except for missing your family and missing holidays and stuff like that, but that happens if you're on travel anywhere.
Yeah, maybe many of the Romanian students sympathize with me, and for Dan, he only needed to learn Russian, but we needed to learn not only English but also Russian, because both of them are not our native language. But I still remember I talked with Dan on the way to here in a training center. Always in the morning time is a kind of language session. So after 2 hours of the first class, everybody get out of the class and we just walking around or chit-chat each other during the break time. And everybody's faces are so sad because all the Russian cosmonauts, they get out of the English class. So they are so sad. And then some of them feel so even scared because of their poor English, maybe they cannot assign for their space flight. And then some of the astronauts and cosmonauts is kind of joking each other. You know what, Soyeon? Even if he became an astronaut 10 years ago, he would never been in space. You know why? Why? Because he cannot speak English well. It's a kind of Russian joke. And across the street, I can see the kind of sad American NASA astronaut's face right after their Russian class. So it's a kind of hard. Yeah, for me also, it was kind of hard to report in Russian language down to the ground after my experiment over. But my case is a kind of hardest part. It's not exactly in a being space, but right after being space, because we had a ballistic reentry. And we had one of the biggest accident ever in human space flight history as the person who survived, because even bigger accident is all the astronauts cannot survive at all. That was one of the biggest. But among the astronauts who survived, and our accident is quite one of the biggest. So on the way to the Earth, and during the separation, we had a problem. And then we got to know we should have a ballistic reentry. And then we landed on the 500 kilometer from the designated area. And mission control doesn't know if we were killed or not. And then we also couldn't know where we are at the very first time. And then our all antennas are gone because of the fire outside. So we couldn't have any radio communication. So finally we found the Iridium phones and report to the MCC where we are. So that kind of time is kind of hardest to us because all three of us doesn't know if we will survive until hit the ground or not. And we don't know how long we should wait until the search and rescue team came on. And we were totally exhausted in the middle of the nowhere, and then we met the nomadic Kazakhstan peoples before the search and rescue team. And then even those peoples, most of the cosmonauts, they landed on the exactly same spot. So Kazakhstan people around that area, they know who they are, even they are from the sky. But we landed on the 500 kilometer from the designated area, so those nomadic people doesn't know who we are. We cannot even stand up. We just crawled on the ground, and a stupid white suit we wear. So they looked at us from the distance and watching us to make sure if we are also humankind or alien. Yeah. So we were like almost like a movie. But I really admired all my colleagues, Yuri Malenchenko and Peggy Wilson, because even if for them it's the first time, they've never had that kind of accident, but they were so calm. And their leadership is incredible. So as a rookie person, me, even if I feel scared and then kind of freaked out, but I pretend I'm also calm. So yeah, that part was the kind of hardest. Yeah.
I think they pretended probably too.
I think so.
Thank you very much, Soyeon. And now the final question. How heavy is the
That's a good
astronaut
question.
costume?
Okay, so as astronauts, we wear two different types of suits. The suits that, we wear when we launch to space in the rocket. In my era, they were orange. SpaceX has black and white ones now, but those are pressure suits, and so that if during the launch we lose pressure in the spacecraft, it protects our bodies and provides pressure. And so that's really the main job of them, and they're not very heavy at all. They weigh, I don't know what it is, 10 kilograms or something like that. They're mainly fabric, but they're rubber, and there's a helmet, and so not very heavy. When we go out and do spacewalks, we wear what's called an extravehicular activity mobility unit. We call it an EMU, and that's the big white spacesuit that you see us doing spacewalks in. Now that has to not only hold pressure on our bodies, but it has to have life support in the back to keep to provide oxygen and to remove the carbon dioxide. It has to protect us from the extreme cold and the extreme heat from being in space. It has to protect us from if we get hit with micrometeorites. It has many more jobs to do. And they are made not only of some very special fabric, but they're made of aluminum and fiberglass, and they weigh about 125 kilograms on Earth. But of course, in weightlessness of space, we are floating inside the suits, and the suits are floating outside the space station. So it doesn't feel like weight, but it's
inertia. So if you get moving, they want to keep moving, and so to slow down, you have to use a lot of muscles to slow down. And so that mass, that inertia, you have to manage during spacewalks. But on the Earth, they weigh a lot, but there's no such thing as weight up in space.
I want to add, so for the Apollo astronauts who walked on the moon, I don't know kilograms, I'm American. So the spacesuit is 360 pounds. So picture that, 360 pounds. But the spacesuits, when Neil and Buzz and the other Apollo astronauts walked on the moon, only weighed 60 pounds because it's 1/6 of the gravity. So for them, that felt way better than when they had to train in it on Earth, right? So.
Yeah, those spacesuit is almost like a spaceship. Yeah, personal spaceship. So cannot help. It's heavy.
It's a life support system, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. In the end, let's applaud our guests.
Before we leave.
No, we don't leave yet.
But before we leave, can we take a selfie with everyone from the stage?
So. Just one announce. So tomorrow and the day after tomorrow at 10 o'clock we'll be in the room AN010, in which we'll have daily panels with our astronauts. And after this, each day from 12 to 1:30, in their special place, we'll have the meet and greet sessions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And now let's have the photo.
you.
Everyone up? Toată lumea în picioare, acum românește, gata. Aprindeți luminile pe scenă și în sală, bineînțeles. Deci în 10 minute, pe deasupra noastră, aici în față, pe platou, va trece echipa de acrobație Aeroclubului României, campioni europeni. Vor face câteva treceri, vor saluta publicul și după aceea mergem la meet and greet. Deci